I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Hamas warns that the Gaza Strip is on the brink of an explosion. Albert Einstein's letters are auctioned off in Jerusalem. And we hope you're excited because Israel is about to build its first ever true amusement park. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's trip to the U.S. this week is going on as scheduled, and Netanyahu has just finished a series of meetings with top lawmakers from both sides of the aisle. This comes following his meeting with President Trump and his speech last night to AIPAC, where Netanyahu continued to thank President Trump for his recent decisions regarding Jerusalem and blast Iran for continuous aggressions in the Middle East.
Iran is building an aggressive empire. Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, Yemen, more to come. Now Iran is seeking to build permanent military bases in Syria, seeking to create a land bridge from Tehran to Tartus on the Mediterranean, and in addition to moving its army, its air force, its navy to Syria, to be able to attack Israel from closer hand, it's also seeking to build precision-guided missile factories in Syria, in Lebanon, against Israel. I will not let that happen.
The Prime Minister even presented Republican Senator Steve Scalise with an IDF paratroopers hat as a sign of appreciation for his support for the Jewish state. Now, in addition to Iran's expanding reach in the Middle East, Netanyahu has also called attention to the JCPOA nuclear agreement between Iran and the P5+1 powers, saying Israel supports the U.S.'s stance on either fixing or nixing the deal. As for peace negotiations with the Palestinians, well, Netanyahu's focus has remained positive despite a major political fallout since the White House's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's undivided capital.
Israel remains committed to achieving peace with all our neighbors, including the Palestinians. President Trump has made it clear that he is committed to peace. I have made it clear that I'm committed to peace. We appreciate the efforts of President Trump's superb team, Jared Kushner, Jason Greenblatt, and Ambassador David Friedman. Thank you all. Thank you all for your hard work for peace. But to get peace, President Abbas has to embrace peace and to stop supporting terror.
New reports from Hamas and several other groups in the Gaza Strip are again warning of an impending humanitarian crisis in the coastal enclave. ILTV's Aaron Porras has more on this story. Now, Aaron, what exactly does Hamas want to be done right now to solve this crisis?
They want a lot. They want the United States to reinstate, funding. They want Israel and Egypt to lift their blockades. They want the Palestinian Authority to lift their sanctions, especially the Palestinian Authority, where they're placing most of their blame right now because they've refused to lift the sanctions, on their electricity access and things like that, despite Hamas coming to the negotiating table. Well,
which is interesting because Hamas did admit that the sanctions were to bring Hamas to the negotiating table, which they have done. What are the responses, the Palestinian public's responses to where Hamas is shifting the blame?
Sure. Well, the Palestinian Authority is basically still saying, we're just still working on the deal, so nothing is set in stone yet, which is actually why it's possible that they haven't lifted the sanctions yet. It's kind of this continuing incentive.
Got it.
As from Israel's perspective, at least in the Southern Command, the IDF has already stated that they're not really buying it anyway. They think that Hamas is really just using the humanitarian crisis and weekly protests on the Gaza border, as kind of a smokescreen to draw attention away from their terror activities.
Well, I mean, it's very, very harsh to see what's happening. We have over 40% of people unemployed in the Gaza Strip. How did Israel come to that conclusion, though, that is what Hamas's goal is?
Primarily because Israel offered help. They offered to aid and lift some of the sanctions and some of the blockade that they have imposed on Gaza in return for Hamas returning, 2 bodies of soldiers that were stolen in 2014 summer war, and 2 live captives that they've been holding on to now for over a few years. So they refused that outright. They'd said the only way we'll even begin to talk about returning these 4 individuals is if Israel releases, a mass of indicted criminals from prison, which Israel is just not willing to do. Well,
I mean, I think the world as a whole, Israel also is very, very worried about what a collapse would look like in the Gaza Strip.
It would be disastrous. It would be Everybody knows that, yeah.
All right, thanks for joining us, Aaron. All right, now this is shocking and hard to even talk about, but a Gaza municipality is reportedly awarding 10 shekels to any citizen that kills a stray dog in the Gaza Strip, all as part of a mission to combat the growing problem of stray dogs in the coastal enclave. The municipality of Beit Lahia in the northern Gaza Strip allegedly just put out a public announcement claiming that because of the, quote, proliferation of stray dogs attacking residents, children and farmers, the municipality will award 10 shekels to any man who kills a stray dog and notifies the municipality of the deed. A campaign of this nature may really motivate locals given the deteriorating economic situation in Gaza. Today, over 40% of Gazans are unemployed. Killing dogs could be seen as a quick payoff, especially since the purchasing power of 10 shekels is much greater in the Gaza Strip than in Israel. The crazy part is that there's no limit on how many dogs each resident is allowed to kill or rules as to how the animals should be put down. To complicate things further, another page, supposedly the official Facebook page of Beit Lahia, has now rebuked the campaign, saying the recently publicated reward for killing strays was false and fraudulently posted. The campaign, regardless of who started it, has raised criticism among the Palestinian public, with many calling it cruel and inhumane. Residents are asking the municipality to create an organization to care for strays and prevent them from procreating. But some were outraged by the suggestion, especially given the current economic situation in Gaza, saying that the Gaza leadership must first provide adequate shelters for all of the Gazans living without roofs over their heads. A prominent Israeli rabbi has sparked an uproar by claiming that Israel is allowing itself to be flooded with gay culture and is, quote, becoming an LGBT stan. Rabbi Yoshua Shapira is the dean of the Ramat Gan Yeshiva, and he's now urging his followers to wage war against Israel's LGBT community to help maintain traditional family values. Joining us now to discuss this controversial story is Meir Azari, the rabbi of Beit Daniel Tel Aviv, and Rabbi Ronen Neuwirth, the chairman of the Ve'avta Tel Aviv Jewish Experience. I got that right. There we go. All right, my friend. So I'd like to get your reactions to the comments from Rabbi Shapira.
I'm tired from those type of comments and reactions. I think that many Israelis, especially in the secular community, are tired from the 15th century type of remarks and the lack of love that we see from many rabbis. I think that Ronen, my friend, Rabbi Ronen, is in the same boat with me. He's tired. This is why he formed an organization called Ve'ahavta. This is why he was part of Bet Hillel, organization that I think put an aim to change a little bit this type of rabbinate. I think we deserve better rabbis in this century in the city of Tel Aviv, in the spirit of Israel.
What is your response?
Okay, so I want to say 2 things. First of all, I'm an Orthodox rabbi. I do believe in the traditional Jewish values of family. However, and this is why I'm very troubled by the statement that took place yesterday. If we go back to our history, the Second Temple was destroyed not because of the LGBT community and not because of any other sin, rather because of hatred, because of Jews disrespecting each other. It is legitimate to hold a view which might not be so popular, just as a view of Rabbi Yoshua Shapira. However, the question is how do you treat others? How do you respect others? You can have you can disagree, but it has to be done in a different way. The way, the manner that the things were said yesterday, I think that was a disgrace for Torah, for Judaism. That's not the way rabbis should speak.
I'd like to know what some are the differences in terms of how Orthodox Judaism versus Reform Judaism tackle the issue of LGBT rights. Because you're an Orthodox rabbi, yet you are condemning these statements, right?
So my major issue with the statement, to begin with, is the way things were said in a way that is very disrespectful, that is declining the rights of other people even to exist. Mm-hmm. I think, by the way, that sometimes we see the same method just from the other side, that whenever anyone can be a rabbi, can be a priest, or that is trying to hold for the traditional points of view is being bashed, even if he speaks in a respectful way. And I think that's a problem that we have in our discourse.
Our community respect the gay community. Our synagogues are open to the gay community. You'll see all over the world the gay community, the LGBT community, part of our leadership, part of our rabbinate. We are open. Our faith is toward the 21st century, based on the Jewish history and the Jewish spirit. But we understand that time change, and we have to accept this type of life, this experience. And I just read a few months ago an old article by Rabbi Stephen Greenberg, by the way, an Orthodox rabbi that declared openly that he's gay. And he said that years ago, when he said to Rabbi Eliashiv, Alav Shalom, one of the leading rabbi of the Haredi community, in a private meeting, I'm gay. He said, you know, you have love to two different type of people. You know, you are blessed. And be careful with this blessing. I challenge rabbis, Orthodox rabbis, to behave in the way that Rabbi Eliashiv, in this case, talked to Rabbi Greenberg.
Well, the question is, I mean, we're living in a democratic country here in Israel, but how much power, you know, should religion have in the current state? And this is a comment that we're hearing from a very specific individual, but this is something that's felt
The problem is this guy, this rabbi, is using my money, and the investment, the majority investment of the government is in this type of rabbis and not in the liberal arena. The state of Israel encouraged rabbi like Rabbi Shapira, like Rabbi Eliyahu from Tzfat, like the Eli Mechina, that, you know, we heard so many things during the last few months from the Mechina. This is the type of Judaism that the state of Israel encouraged, and this is a disaster. The state of Israel should be open to other type of comments.
What is your take on that?
So I respectfully disagree, meaning I have a tremendous issue and tremendous problem with things that were said yesterday and with other rabbis speaking this way. I do believe, however, there are many rabbis and many of my colleagues that are speaking differently, that have different views. In my community, I have lots of empathy. I'm accepting openly, people are openly gays. As equal members, despite the fact that I cannot give, and I will not give any halakhic legitimate. I will never legitimize that like halakhically, but I accept them, I love them, I embrace them. They're part of my community, and being in that, like on one hand, respecting the values of Judaism that were with us for many years. At the very same time, being open to the different people and being empathetic, regardless if you agree with the way of life or not. I think that's our role as leaders, and being respectful. And I think that's a major problem. It's a cultural problem that, by the way, we see it from the extreme right wing and extreme left wing.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap this conversation up, one which we could go on for a long time. But thank you both for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
It's been 3 weeks since a deadly high school shooting in Parkland, Florida, and Israeli trauma experts have been stepping in to help students cope as they go back to school. On February 14th, former student Nicholas Cruz walked into Stoneman Douglas High School and opened fire. He managed to kill 17 people but left hundreds more with post-trauma. Well, just 10 days after the shooting, experts from the Israel Trauma Coalition arrived in Parkland, Florida to help guide over 600 teachers, parents, law enforcement, and kids as to how to face the future. The Israel Trauma Coalition, or ITC, offers their expertise following crises around the world, from hurricanes to earthquakes to mass shootings just like the one in Parkland.
We came here to share some of the Israeli experience and best practices on dealing with such traumatic events, such as a terrible school shooting that happened 2 weeks ago. See hundreds of first responders, and we'll share with them what have worked for us over the years in dealing with such traumatic events.
The ITC was created in 2002 after a year of unrelenting terror attacks in Israel. The founders wanted to gather collective knowledge about dealing with trauma in one place so that it could be used in the future. And so far, ITC has sent 17 delegations abroad, training people on how to stay resilient, cope, and take care of themselves after a traumatic event. The organization's sessions in Florida are being coordinated by the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs and various groups on the ground. In Parkland, the students and teachers have already gone back to school, and they say they feel better equipped to deal with what they went through. But there's still more to be done, and ITC may end up flying back to check in soon. All right, haven't you ever wished you could peek into the brain of the legendary physicist Albert Einstein? Well, now at least a couple of people will have the chance to do just that, because 2 of his personal letters have just been sold in an auction in Jerusalem.
We had up for auction today the 2 letters that are very important. One is the theory of relativity of Albert Einstein, and the second one is the romantic games of Einstein.
Getting to know Albert Einstein certainly isn't cheap. One of the letters discussing his groundbreaking theory of relativity sold for just over a whopping $100,000. Einstein wrote the handwritten gem in Berlin and sent it to a mathematician.
Einstein wrote this special letter to one of his colleagues regarding the 3rd stage of theory of relativity, and he was excited publishing his article about it. And after he wrote this letter, he adds a few 3 lines above the envelope, which shows that he was very excited about his theory.
But it turns out the famous scientist wasn't always so serious. In fact, the second letter sold gave the world a little look into his romantic life. It turns out Einstein had a crush on Elisabetta Piccini, a chemistry student half his age who lived just 1 floor above his sister in Florence. During a visit to the Italian city, Einstein made an attempt to, well, get the ball rolling.
The note that Einstein wrote to this lady is very surprising. We see a man as big as Einstein that has weakness of a human being, and he writes a letter to a lady that he never met.
Elisabetta was apparently too shy to meet with the then 42-year-old Einstein, who was about to win the Nobel Prize, so it looks like his letter just didn't win her over. But clearly somebody was charmed, because his romantic gesture was sold for just over $6,000. If you think that's a lot, it's actually small money compared to another Einstein letter sold last October. The document from 1922 discussed what Einstein believed was the secret to happiness and sold for an incredible $1.3 million. You may remember this story we covered last year. A year ago, a couple from Canada managed to immigrate to Israel with 119 sheep. But these weren't any old sheep. They were Jacob sheep, a special breed that are believed to be descended from the biblical patriarch's flock in the Bible. And now you can get your hands on one of their unique horns.
What makes our flock special is that, according to biblical prophecy, we returned back to Israel after 2,500 years. It's prophesied in the book of Ezekiel and also in Jeremiah 33, where it says shepherds are returning with their flocks. And so this is why our flock is special.
Jacob's sheep have spotted coats and 4 to 6 horns, just like the speckled and spotted sheep mentioned in the biblical story of the patriarch Jacob. The animals went extinct in Israel, but Jenna Lewinsky and her former husband managed to convince the Israeli government to allow them back in the country. Today you can visit all 79 of them in the northern Galilee.
We want the sheep to graze like they did 2,500 years ago in Israel. We want Israel to look a little bit like it used to in ancient times.
Now the couple is turning their horns into Jewish shofars as part of what they claim is God's plan.
This Jacob sheep horn has this spirituality to it, has this sense. This is the regathering, ingathering of the Jews, the calling for this time. We're waiting. This is the sound you're going to hear when Mashiach comes. And so we're just preparing everything, and this is very instrumental in it.
The price of the Jacob sheep horns range between $500 to $20,000, and the shofar maker that's processing them claims they have a wide range of musical notes. Interestingly, the majority of the shofar industry in Israel is based on imported horns, but the Jacob sheep's horns come from right here in Israel.
The Jacob sheep horns can probably be processed anywhere in the world, but what makes the horns special is that we are processing them in Israel, which gives them a holiness to be processed in the land. And so we're very excited about that.
Scientists say there's no clear scientific data on sheep breeds that existed in ancient times, but most agree that the source of all domesticated sheep is from the Middle East, around 11,000 years ago. All right, I personally love the feel of a good old book in my hands, but audiobooks are becoming a huge thing right now. I mean, who doesn't love a bedtime story? Well, one Israeli company has come up with a way for you to hear and watch your favorite books being read out by famous actors. And here to tell us more is the founder of Tell Me 5, Amos Talshir. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so tell us about how this works. What actors are going to be available on your platform? Can you choose whoever you want?
Yeah, okay. Tell Me 5 is offering the next generation of literature, broadcast through a digital library. And you could actually use an application by categories. You enter to the categories: dramatic books, stories, romantic, detective, war.
And you choose what you want, and then you have an actor reading it out loud. Okay, so who are these actors? Where do you find them?
Well, they will be American actors. We are concluding now agreements with the agencies of actors and publishers. But one thing that we should mention is that we are talking about a new genre of literature, which is flash fiction. Sudden fiction, which is a very, very, very short stories, up to 5 minutes reading time, starting at 30 seconds.
So kind of like monologues in a way, and obviously you get the facial expressions, the whole experience through not only the voice but also the look.
And they don't read it, they tell it, they play stories.
Right, they act it out. They act it out. Okay, very cool. All right, so is this available yet?
No. We've just, me and my partner, Tidhar Dotan, we've just graduated the Accelerator of Innovation, the Ono Academic College. And we are on the move, you know, so...
well, we'll be looking out for the platform once it's finally live. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, I personally love visiting the Israeli desert, but for those of you who think there's not much to do down there, it looks like that's about to change. Developers are planning a massive theme park in the desert town of Dimona, and if it actually happens, it will be Israel's first true amusement park. Dimona isn't exactly known for fun. In fact, it's most famous for its nuclear reactor. But a local group of business people want to change that with Plalim Park, or the Park of Wonders. The group has been working on the idea for years and believe it would cost an estimated $300 million to build. But unlike Disney World or your average water park, this amusement park would have a Jewish theme. Imagine it for yourself, a Jewish magic kingdom of sorts. The park is set to include 16 major rides, including a Jacob's Ladder attraction and a water ride that helps teach the Jewish days of the week, with the Sabbath representing an island of tranquility. The Israeli government helped choose Dimona as a site for the educational park, even though no government institutions have agreed to commit funds to the project just yet. But it's about time, because right now the only theme park Israel has to offer is the measly Luna Park in Tel Aviv. It's cute, but think about what a truly massive roller coaster would do to help Israelis with all of their stress. The government should support the project just for that. And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Today's word is keren, meaning horn or beam, in honor of the unique horns produced by Israel's ancient flock of Jacob's sheep. Keren most often refers to a ray of light or a horn, like that of a sheep, goat, or rhino. In fact, that's where the rhino, or karnaf, gets its name. Karnaf and keren have the same root, because, well, a rhino has a horn. Now, if you're still confused, don't worry. The mistranslation of keren is as old as can be. Even the great Michelangelo made the mistake when he gave his famous sculpture of Moses a pair of horns instead of rays of light. Too bad he didn't have a Hebrew word of the day to clear that up. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be warm with clear skies and a low of about 63 or 17 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow will be partly cloudy, but temperatures are also expected to rise a bit. The high will be 84 or 29 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.47 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.